Hello and welcome back to OT the Podcast. We're here to talk about watches, time, and watches on TikTok. My name's Felix Schultz.
And I'm Andy Green. Felix, how you going?
Yeah, pretty good.
Fantastic. TikTok. Are we joining? What's the deal?
Well, I don't think we need to because there's no way we will be better at it than this week's guest, Diamond District Dealer Extraordinaire, John Buckley.
Bit of a big deal in the old vintage Rolex world.
Yeah. He's we worked it out fairly early on in our, sending his videos to each other that he has a Rolex style named after him that he named himself, which was kind of funny.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that he's been doing it for decades and he's managed to translate over to a new platform altogether.
Yeah,
Started out on the forums, where he predates the forums, and now
sure.
he's dominating watch TikTok. Who'd have thought?
Marketing. It's good. Hey, quick question before we get into whatever thing else is going on in our life.
Mm.
If you could name like a part of a watch, like a Rolex, part after you, like the green, let's say it's a green style, what would it be?
Well, I think everyone wants the dial, but I'd take a bezel. I'd take a bezel insert.
Okay, like the double green bezel, like some
Mm.
sort of
Yeah,
Rolex Hermit bezel.
extra green.
Oh, nice. I wonder what the Schultz could be.
Something extrapolated, I think.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I mean, maybe like maybe case polish
Okay,
in
yeah.
Schultz Chamford.
Yeah, or a dial finishing technique, maybe.
Yeah, okay. None of those are going to happen. What has been happening in our lives, Andy?
Well, Felix, not a lot. We've been getting ready to go up to Sydney. We are in
Yeah,
Melbourne for those that don't know. Visiting a bunch of watch brands. Got a few events happening,
yeah.
which is
Well,
quite unusual.
yeah, we'll probably talk about that next week in a little bit more detail. We're seeing some people going to a shop opening, as they call it.
Shop
Uh,
opening, but GPHG, Felix, chatted a
yes,
bit. Obviously, we had the OT
I
awards last week.
that was a little bit tongue in cheek. If you
If
haven't
you
listened to it,
if you missed
do.
that memo, yeah.
I got some really positive feedback from people in the industry about the not just the accuracy of our takes, but the fact that this is what we need in the industry, like less navel gazing, more irreverence.
It's interesting because I had a mate who's sort of into watches, but new to getting into watches, and he asked me, "Oh, did you see? I won't say which brand, won this award. Oh, that's really cool." And I said, "I mean, it, those awards aren't, they aren't what you think." And he said,
Mm.
"What do you mean?" I said, "Well, they tend to benefit the people that really need them in order to sell more watches, and everyone else, they don't need them. And the biggest brands that will come to mind, they're not even involved. So it's a
And again, not that we're trying to, replace you as a host, Andy.
mm,
Another great Chris Hall newsletter where
oh,
he sort of
insanely good. Insanely good. Insanely good.
I
Seriously.
mean, I wouldn't even be mind being replaced by him as a host. I think the podcast would be better for it, to be honest.
I'm surprised he doesn't have a podcast yet.
Shh, let's
I know
not.
we're giving him too many. He's going to take over. Chris Hall is a bit of a force. I feel like he's kind of in the shadows, and he's about to come out in full force. Doing some great stuff. Doing some really great stuff. Chris Hall, who we've recently had on.
Yeah. Anything else, Andy? Anything else exciting in your world going on?
Not really, Felix. We do have some exciting content to talk about, though. Thanks to this week's episode sponsor, G-Shock Australia, which you can obviously check out at gshock.com.au.
Exactly. So we're talking about G-Shock through the decades. They're coming up to their 40th anniversary. We've moved from the origins in the 80s to sort of the 90s explosion of popularity. Now let's see it come into its own in a decade that we came into our own, Andy, the 2000s.
The golden era. As technology advanced in the 2000s, so did G-Shock, Felix. We got the first radio-controlled model in 2000, the super chunky GW-100, and we also got new versions of fan-favorite lines like the Frogman and the Mudman.
Side note, G-Shock have great names.
They do.
Like there's also like the Riseman. It's so cool.
Yeah, you go from GW100 to the Mudman. Like, I love it.
Yeah, and I mean that's that sort of like the with they're revitalizing the Mudman. That's all about their sort of shock resistance, and improving against. People think water resistance, but I think the Mudman, when they're talking about mud resistance, it kind of seems weird at first, but then you think in. You'd never like get a watch dirty with just water. It's always all that grit and like fine debris that's going to mess with your gaskets. So it makes a lot of sense. That's just a by the by, Felix thinking about, technical processes. But the biggest innovation for me that G-Shock came out with in the 2000s, I've got to say, I think it was low energy Bluetooth, the GB6900, which was released in 2012. I actually did a little bit of deep Google searching. I tried to find a story I wrote for Hodinkee about it at the time of its release, but it's gone. It's lost
Oh
to
no.
the archives of the internet. For me, though, that sort of functionality, it's exactly what G-Shock is all about. Like it's user friendly and it's practical and it makes it a better watch. Like it's not there for any other sort of purpose. It's just, to make it better for the wearer.
Exactly, Felix. And then on the cultural side, if you're looking at the 2000s, there were really quite a few iconic G-Shock moments in that sort of 2000s period. We've talked about the iconic interview between Eminem and Anderson Cooper, which was 2011. So just, you know, 11 years ago now. We will link that up if you haven't seen it, but it's a really cool take from Eminem, who, was a very successful artist 12 years ago, 11 years ago. More
Yeah.
so now, just talking about, why he loves his G-Shock and the brand and why he's so frequently seen wearing them.
Yeah. And that sort of authenticity of like, it's not just a paid endorsement or whatever it is, but it comes from a real place.
100%.
Um,
You've also included a very, I think, wholesome image of Justin Bieber and Usher flashing matching watches, which just about sums up the massive appeal of G-Shock.
I didn't put a date on this, but based on, I think it's from I cropped the image, but it's from like the Nickelodeon Kids Award, and this is very young Bieber. When do you
Mm.
reckon this is from?
I think he's 12 there,
Woof.
going off that hair.
And when was Usher cool?
Usher's been, I think Usher's still cool.
Oh, okay, sure.
Maybe not to you, but yeah, 2000s, definitely through the 2000s. I mean, I think if you Google any rap music video or hip hop music video from 2005 to 2010, there's going to be a G-Shock, at least
Yeah,
one
Rihanna.
G-Shock in there.
Rihanna was a big advocate of the G Shock of this time as well.
G-Shock, baby G, doesn't matter.
It's all G Shock. Hey, so that is the G Shock in the 2000s. I think it's a really exciting time. Technology, culture. It's like where it comes into its own. Next week, let's find out where the G Shock's heading and where it's at now. So expect some Casio. Expect some, I don't know, fun new innovations and maybe some
Some metal,
speculation. Yeah, been
maybe
metal.
some metal.
Until then, of course, thank you to G-Shock Australia and head to gshock.com.au. One question we didn't ask John Buckley.
Two questions. I've
Oh,
realized before, well, I realized after we got off the call,
yep.
we didn't ask him about the Hans Wilsdorf Rolex he
We
bought.
sent a message like we should ask about the
I
Hans
know
Wolf.
we just too much other good stuff. So I think we have to force him and some of the Vucom guys to come back on.
Yeah, sure.
What didn't we ask him, Felix?
Well, I mean, it ties in perfectly to that beautiful Hans Wilsdorf, sort of Rolex Prince or whatever he had. Artem straps.
Mm.
What vintage Rolex would you put on an Artem strap, John Buckley?
He seems like a NATO guy through and through. Big, vintage watches classically have really average bracelets.
Mhm.
Most vintage guys chuck them on a NATO strap. I can see him really enjoying the quality of an Artem strap NATO.
Maybe we should send him one as a Christmas present or something.
Yeah, as a thank you for coming on. I think he'd
We should.
go straight grey. He'd keep it pretty clean and simple and let the
Yeah,
the
no,
watch do
no,
the
no
talking.
frills. Nothing fancy. I mean,
Nothing
maybe
too
I
fancy.
mean, Artem don't do Apple straps because he's John's got a big Apple Watch thing going on. Maybe do that.
Maybe. As always, Felix, we love the support that Artem Straps give us. You can check them out at artemstraps.com or artem.straps on Instagram. Get some inspiration for your next strap purchase.
hmm Enough do about this. We need to just get onto the business of trading watches.
Yeah. I think it's time to negotiate with none other than John Buckley.
I'll give you a 45.
How much is this $3,500 watch?
How much is this
Oh,
OT
we're
podcast?
fans, aren't we? All right, let's
Oh,
get him on. Let's get him on.
today's guest has achieved what I think is the holy grail in watches. He has become a nickname, a Rolex nickname, not no less. So next to Maya, Batman, and Bart Simpson, there is Buckley. Today we meet the man behind the dial and someone who appears to be the hardest working dealer in the Diamond District and on TikTok. Welcome, John Buckley. How are you?
I am well, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
No, the pleasure is all ours. And before we get into your dial, Felix and I were chatting. We want to know what you think the silliest or the greatest watch nickname of all time is.
Mayor.
Just killing the
I didn't have
competition.
to think. I didn't have to think. And I love John. He's a good guy. But
Yeah.
I mean, no
It's
real
Buckley.
credibility. Sorry. Very sorry.
Are you
And the
just
haters
salty?
hate
Are
it.
you just salty that his dial is more famous than your dial?
Oh, now I'm salty.
Wow,
Oh,
Felix.
feel it.
Easy.
Oh, he went there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that shows me that you guys have not done your research.
Well, I have got a link to a VRF post from 2007 in my notes
Uh-huh.
here,
Yeah.
where you lay down the law.
Oh, yeah.
But can you tell us what is a Buckley dial and where did it come from?
The Buckley dial came from 2007. I think it was either 2007 or 2008 in February. And John had gotten very, very into watches. Like I sold him a watch, I think it was 2005 or 2006, maybe. And I mean, can I be honest with you? I mean, no hate on the guy. I didn't even know who he was. I mean, I'm on the phone with him and he was like, okay, I'll send you a check. I was like, nah, send me a wire. You know, I honestly don't know who it was. I did, and I felt bad after the fact. But very, very, personable guy, nice guy. And I always say this, when I met him for the first time, at a International Watch and Jewelers Guild show. I had just had a heart attack. And the first thing he said to me when he walked up to me, he shook my hand. He's like, hey, how's your health? How are you feeling? And I mean, he was just really just a very, very nice person. Very nice. And, it's funny that we're linked in this way. But the reason behind the Buckley dial is basically somebody on Vintage Rolex Forum, Ed Delgado, who's a good friend of mine. He owns DoubleRedSeaDweller.com, which was a very, very big site back
Great
in,
site.
internet days. And Ed is a very good friend of mine for many, many years. Um, Everybody was kind of like, blowing sunshine, in places where the sun don't shine. Oh, John Mayer's here. Oh, wow. Oh, and he had purchased a whole bunch of these very, very questionable dials, which later on, I mean, we can get into that if you want to. Uh, I have no, I have no constraints and no problem talking about it. But he had purchased a whole bunch of these dials that were very, very questionable. And, those of us who were in the know always said that they were questionable. And they were like, hey, let's just call this the Mayor dial. And I got really, really salty because, like I'm not this, rich guy going out there, buying whatever I want. I was out there, hustling for a living. And I was like, well, if you're going to give this guy a dial who has absolutely no credibility in the business whatsoever, I'm going to name this dial after myself. And it was the most unpopular dial of all time. It was these painted, matte white, black, and blue or brown painted Roman dials. And it was, it was just, it was not a popular dial. They were all over the place. Nobody would buy them. And I said, this is going to be the Buckley dial. You saw the post, blah, blah, blah. I proclaimed this. I had a big mouth and I'm much conservative now, but not. But I posted it and it was funny because a lot of guys in the industry, they all knew me. They all purchased from me. I always was fair with people and, people liked me and it just stuck. And it's just really funny. We had what was it? The 15th anniversary or something just before COVID. And it was supposed to be the relaunch of the Buckley Report 2.0 and all this stuff. And Carl Cohen and I, who's Verilat Watches, who's my buddy, he he and I did just a YouTube video based on it, and we took the little snippet out about the Buckley dial, and it's on YouTube. And it's just kind of funny that it stuck. I mean, now, people don't. Some people meet me and they're like, "Hey, John Buckley, oh, like the Buckley dial." I'm like, "Yeah, that's right." And they're like, "Oh, wow, do you know about that?" I was like, "Yeah, I've heard of it. I've heard rumors. I hear different things, but most of the watch companies, Bob's and Hodinkee and all of these other places that I always kind of give my shit to, they always give me credit for the dial, which is, or they'll say, it's supposedly named after a New York City vintage Rolex dealer or something like that. Some people will say my name, which is fine. That's cool. Everybody knows where it's from anyway, so I don't have any issue with that. Some people like me, some people don't. That's okay. You guys like me though.
Yeah,
I hope.
This
We
is
haven't worked with you.
an ambush.
That's
I gotta say, I
well,
need the.
but we're how many thousands of miles away? That's definitely, that little buffer zone is definitely going to be helpful.
It's a safe distance. I gotta say, I knew about the Buckley dial before I knew who you were, and I wasn't in watches, until probably 2011, 2012. But I knew about for me, the Buckley dial superseded you.
Yeah. Same.
Really?
Yeah. I'd probably say the same.
Yeah. Which is cool.
We were talking, we were like, "Hey, you reckon this is?" We saw you on TikTok and we worked it out. Like, I wouldn't have known your face,
Right?
and then we sort of put the dots together. So yeah.
So how'd you guys find out? How'd you guys start on TikTok? I know how I started, and it's pretty funny. But you guys go first.
No. Well, mine's a quick story. My partner got me into it, and I was like, "Oh no, TikTok!" And then eventually, 15 hours later,
yeah, and Felix would send me TikToks, so I eventually signed up to an account. I sort of resisted it, and then I got on there and we discussed it. We said, "Oh, I don't want to see watch content on here," because a few people had tried, and they were pretty unsuccessful with doing watch content and TikTok. And then Felix sent me one of your videos, and I think I'd already seen it because it started to seep through and work out, what I was interested in. And then we got talking like, this is good. And then, one of the questions we have for you for later, but like now that we're talking about TikTok, I'm going to ask it, how's it feel to be the guy that figured out watch content for TikTok? Because it's been around for years, and I think you're the guy that figured it out.
I don't know if I could really take credit for it. I'll be very straightforward with you. I've been on Instagram now since I think 2013. I was on there really early. I was on Facebook, I think 2009. And my son got me into I'm sorry that everybody's texting me. These people just keep going on, and I love them to death, but I can't handle it. But we got on TikTok. My son and his best friend Tyler, who is Vukum, and we're all Vukum. The three of us are Vukum, but Tyler, he invented the name. He came up with the name Vukum back in 2020 during COVID. Gave us something to do, and we started this chat group on Facebook. And subsequently, we have a WhatsApp group, paid group and stuff like that, which is really, really very successful. One of the better groups. So Tyler has been on TikTok now since January of 22, I think. And during the summer, he and my son were shooting these videos in New York because we would go in and do our business. And my son is the cameraman. He's the one that's swinging the camera back and forth. Wait, 100 million views, 2 accounts, knock it, go ahead. But he's the guy that's behind the camera and does, a lot of the editing and stuff like that, a lot of the tech stuff. And Tyler was like, you got to get on TikTok. I had an account for a while, but I never really posted anything. So they were approached by this production company called Mad Realities to do this TikTok show. And this was like in July or something. So my son and Tyler met with these guys, very nice guys, Hollywood guys, but nice kids, young. I call them kids. They're in their mid-20s. They're a little older than my son and Tyler. And they met up with them in August. So then I met up with them in late August, and I was like, something, I'm going to go on TikTok. So I started posting these very, very rudimentary TikTok horrible videos. If you look at the first ones, it's like some of them are just like me going like this and, posting, pictures with like Johnny Thunder's music in the background and stuff like that, or Hole or the Ramones or Zeppelin or some of the stuff that I actually, I used to listen to. I don't listen to music. It's overrated. Oh, definitely overrated. Yeah, I'm salty and old. But we hit on one video on September 9th. We hit it. My son and I did a video together of me examining a counterfeit Rolex bracelet versus on a president against a real one. And the video did, I think, 300,000 views. And it
Wow.
put me into the live TikTok world where I can go over 1,000 views. And from then on, we have, I mean, I think I've got 310,000 since September 9th, which is
Wow.
pretty substantial. I mean, in the TikTok world. We've got, heavy videos on there, some that have done, 6, 7 million, we have many million plus videos on there, 2 million plus. And it's just interesting because it's just us doing what we do. I mean, the negotiation videos, I mean, Tyler was doing his, and I was like, you know what, let me do some over here too, because I'm over here buying and selling crazy watches
Mm.
sometimes. And my son with me, and we go to our regular people, and some of them didn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're all wide open. They're all like, hey, could you do a video? You want to do it with us? There's still some that don't want to do it, and we respect that. That's fine. But the trick is, like, to get enough content, because we're only going in 1 or 2 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you get a couple of guys that don't want to shoot, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard. So we've got to challenge. It's challenging to come up with enough content to keep the people happy, because if I don't show a negotiation video or a repair video, I mean, I'm surprised you guys didn't mention I am the worst watchmaker going. Okay, but I'm terrible. Okay, but they're my watches. If I want to fuck them up, I'll fuck them up. Excuse my French. And you know what? What do you want from me? I mean, I don't see anybody else trying it. I'm doing it. I've been doing it for the better part of 20 years, opening up watches. So I know my way around it. But, it's just interesting, it's just really interesting how we kind of like, we're like at the second, we're like probably, the most watched guys recently, but we're
Mm-hmm.
like on the year. I think this other guy, this Irishman or Englishman Hollywood producer guy is doing
Oh, yep.
watch.
Producer Michael, maybe.
Yes, that's him. And there's maybe one other guy in Nico or something like that. These
Nico?
people just don't
Yeah.
stop. Yeah, they just don't stop. I'm sorry, guys. And they've got, one of them's got over 1 million. They both got over 1 million, but they've got a heavy YouTube presence.
Mm-hmm.
And we're YouTube only because the editing is just, I mean, my son is versed in it. He is, he hates editing. My son, listen, when we do the reality show, which is coming, I mean, that
Wow.
we'll save that for the end, but my son is absolutely not into the watch business. He knows it inside. He's actually got a corporate job in the watch world, believe it or not, doing authentication for a very, very large company who nameless. But he is not into it. Tyler, who grew up with my son, I mean, he grew up with me basically. I mean, his parents and my wife and I mean, we're all very close friends. And we spent holidays together. We, very, very close. And Tyler was always, very into that whole hustle world and, buying and sell, always wanted to buy and sell watches. And there's a video that I did, how did Tyler get into the watch business, on his page. And it's like, Tyler was supposed to be going, he came to 47th Street with me when he was 18 years old. And I sent him out to sell a watch, and he was like all, timid. And I would send him out to get lunch. We would eat jerk chicken every day from the truck. And he had to go to school, and he started college, and he lasted 2.5 weeks. He came back. He's like, fuck, I'm getting into I'm doing business. I'm like, listen, you want to do business, you got to do business my way if you're going to do it. And we had some, meetings in the mind, because he's headstrong. He's very much like me in that regard. He's wants to do it his way. And, I've lost tons of money doing it that way. So I tried to guide him in the proper direction. And, he's a good boy, and he listens most of the time. And, my son was doing, he was doing photography for the school that the place where we shot the YouTube videos. And he wasn't making any money. It was COVID. The school was not really open. So he was like, Dad, I'm coming back into the business. I'm like, okay, well, you own a part of it, so what the hell, come back here and actually maybe do some work instead of just collecting. So he because yeah, I mean, listen, it's a family business, and I never took on interns or anything like that because I've been around the block, and interns will come and work for you for a year and a half. Go through your Rolodex, learn all your customers. They're never going to learn your secrets because it takes way longer than that. But then they'll go out and try to do it on their own, and it happens to every dealer that I know.
Sure.
And I would never bring anybody in unless I absolutely trusted them. Tyler, obviously, is family. So, he was an easy fit. And once we all got on the same page, it was very, very pleasant. I mean, you may see us, I mean, we're killing each other sometimes, but I mean, there's no better thing in the world than, working with, your son. I mean, my son, and, he's like a son to me, the other kid. I mean, he's just, he's my boy. And it's just wonderful. There's no downside to it. They drive me nuts. I have extra gray hair, but listen, they both they're perfect yin and yang. My son is very laid back, extremely, he'll do it on his time. He cannot be bought, he cannot be bribed, he cannot, he's not moved by money in that way. I mean, he's motivated by money, but you can't, you know, force him to do something that he's not ready to do. Tyler, on the other hand, I mean, between the two of us, we're like two like freight trains going in the same direction. So I've got to push one and pull back the other. And it's just an interesting dynamic. And that was the basis for, when we were approached.
Mhm.
We're being approached right now. And
Before we get into the approaching, well, I want to save that sort of big reveal for a little bit. I want to sort of find out more about what your trading videos are the ones I'm most drawn to, because it's fascinating and I love seeing. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be watches. I love seeing anyone that's an expert in their field doing that thing. It's
Behind the
doing the
scenes.
negotiation or the authentication. Which one?
both. I think the first one was that big one where you had the fake bracelet, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you immediately had the air of someone that did this for a living and wasn't like a
Poser.
more recent expert. Like you're not like you
Mhm.
haven't been
Like
doing it for 5 minutes.
that are on there doing it today. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
So and it was very. I'm going to say, I don't mean to be rude about this. It was very workmanlike.
Yeah.
It's but what I wanted to know, and
That's a compliment. I do appreciate that because I am workmanlike. I do.
yeah, unlike
Yeah.
you wearing the Apple Watch, you're not wearing a fancy
Yeah.
watch. Like and you're just chucking them in bags, and it's
Not-
cool.
yeah.
But what I wanted to know was, how real is it? Is this like porn stars, like where it's a fake set and you
No.
sort of lined it up beforehand, or is it what you see is what you get?
We will. Okay. The negotiations, I mean, I always say this to people. It's like, look, if you want to see my bank balance and watch the checks that I write where they're debited, I mean, I could do that. You can call my accountant and, you'll sign off on some paperwork and you can take a look, you know. But a lot of times I will have things pre-sold because I have, I'm a wholesale guy, but
Mhm.
I deal with very, very specific customers. And some of them are wholesales. A lot of them have, tax IDs. A lot of them are overseas. So they'll call me up and they'll be like, John, I need this particular watch. The one that comes to mind is the one with Jasmine. I don't know if you know Jasmine.
Yep.
She works Rex, and she's the dark haired girl who, stuck to her guns on 90 grand. And I was just like battling her through the whole thing because I had the watch, I had a deposit on the watch already. And it was the type of thing where I was going to make either a lot of money, a little money, or not no money, but I don't know how much of it is going to be worth my time. So at the end of the day, I just, I acquiesced. It's like, okay, here, I'll pay your price. No problem. I made myself a little bit of money. The funny part of the backstory to that is like maybe an hour or so later, we get a phone call and somebody local to me actually in New York was like, John, I know because when I put a call out for a watch, everybody starts talking about it. It's like anything else. Like if a vintage watch comes to New York, I'm
Mm.
going to hear about it. So if I put out a call for a big watch, it gets around the grapevine. And when I find out who has it, I go right there. Rex Watches is a friend of mine. Yasha and Mo are good buddies. So you know what? I don't mind. I'll go over there. I'll write them a check. But what wound up happening was somebody local had the watch for like $10,000 less. And I was just like, oh God, it's like, damn it. all right, sometimes you get the bear, sometimes the bear gets you. I didn't get got, but it's just like that's the backstory to that whole Jasmine deal with the rose gold president with the pave dial. I'll never forget that deal.
Ha-
But the deals that we're doing are real deals.
yeah,
I mean, we're doing them. I mean, I've got, you see my phone. I mean,
it's
I
going
didn't turn
crazy.
my ringer off. It goes off constantly. I shut the phone off completely. And I put it on,
Do not
do not
disturb.
disturb at about 10 o'clock at night. And I turn it on at about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm up,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Just going. How do your clients feel? So, because you are opening the world up to the wholesale market, which obviously wholesalers need to make money, retailers need to make money. But how in that example, how does the client feel seeing what you paid, knowing what they paid for the watch? Do they ever? Has anyone ever been weird about it?
it's more so the dealers that get weird about it. The clients, they don't care. The
Yeah.
people that I deal with, they trust me. So they'll wire me, a down payment. Sometimes, I mean, I had a guy today. He's like, John, I'm going to send you, here, I'm going to send you some money. A guy I never met the guy before,
Mm-hmm.
Overseas. He's like, John, let me send you some money. And, you go, I was like, listen, no. Let me go get the watches first. Let me make sure I can secure them. I don't want to take money from you because I don't know you that well
Mm-hmm.
yet. But most of my customers will, send me a down payment and be like, if it's $100,000 watch, they'll send me 20 grand and then I'll take care of it out of my account and then they'll reimburse me. The funny thing again about that whole deal was the guy was supposed to come in, I think the next day and send me and write me a check from a US account. It was a foreign buyer. He doesn't come in until like 5 days later or something like
Oh,
that. So I'll send it. I was like, all right, don't worry about it. No problem. I'll just float the thing for a couple of days. I mean, we do that in this business. When you trust people, you trust them.
you say
Everybody's like,
that.
oh,
You
yeah,
say
you trust
that,
people.
but what I've noticed lately with a lot of dealers is they're moving towards consignment only, and I mean, not the
They're
ones who've been
not
doing it for a
dealers.
long.
Those
They're not
are
dealers,
dealers.
right?
Those are brokers. They're not
Brokers.
dealers. Yeah, they're not dealers. I know the guys you're talking about. They're not
It's a lot of
dealers.
them. There are a lot of them.
Yeah, well, they're all brokers. If you can't write a check, okay, to buy something, if I can't write my own check, I'm not buying it. Okay, I don't get involved in it unless it's like if somebody calls me up and they're like at 9 o'clock in the morning, like, John, I'm going to be into the city, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I need you to get me this watch. I'll be there and I'll pay you. I'll go and I'll pick up the watch from little Eddie or Albert or Yasha or Bobby or Tony or one of the guys. And, I'll write them a check and that's good. No problem. But, a lot of these guys, they're trying to like throw heavy duty markups on things. I mean,
Mm,
there's a ton. A lot of them work for auction houses. They claim them. They fancy themselves experts. Most
hmm.
of the time, they were dealing with other people's watches, not their own money. And for the most part, they're looking at stuff on the internet and trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong. You can't do that in this business. I mean, I've taken big losses in this business. And through no real fault of my own, except that what, you make a mistake, you fuck up, you're gonna fuck up, and it costs you. People, in our Telegram group and in our other groups, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to lose money. It's like, okay, you're not losing money. Okay, if you make a mistake, that's your education, that's
Mm.
tuition. You know, like you think this is all about. I mean, I lose money on literally 5 to 10% of everything I buy. I lose money on. But if you're not losing money on stuff, you're not being aggressive enough buying. And people don't understand that. They think that this is, this this beautiful, like utopian business where we drive fancy cars and, live in big houses and do all, and like, yes, we do drive nice cars. We do live in nice houses. But you know what? There's a lot of risk involved with this. This is a big boy game. And a lot of these guys don't want to put their big boy pants on, so they'll take something on consignment. And
Mm.
then what winds up happening is they'll wind up selling it, and then it turns into like a Ponzi scheme where they'll pay the last guy off, and then the next guy. See, we don't do that, and the real dealers don't, and there are still some of us out here that do things the right way. And it just grinds my gears when I hear people being referred to as, oh, this guy's a legend. It's like, guy doesn't even know what he's doing. The guy's made crazy mistakes and screwed people's deals up by making the wrong call on stuff. And it's like, you're calling these guys. It's like, look, this is an ego driven business.
Hmm.
Okay.
Mm.
It's all about you're dealing with people's egos, and you're dealing with some of the biggest egos on the planet when you're dealing with like customers that I have. And then the dealers have their own egos. We're all trying to outdo one another. I mean, I did when I was in my 40s. Now that I've been in my 50s now for 8 years. I'm going on my ninth year in my 50s. You
Hmm.
know what? I don't have to have, I don't have to be the first kid on the block to have the hottest car. I don't have to have, the most expensive watch on my wrist anymore. I did that. I've been to the mountain. I tell people, it's like, you know what? It was fun. But you know what? As I'm getting older now, it's like I want to set a good example for the boys. I don't want them to be caught up in that lifestyle, because that lifestyle will screw you up. It's bad. I mean, there's lots of guys that are,
Mm.
with substance abuse and alcoholism, and a lot of guys deal with gambling in our business.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rampant in the business. I mean, I've been sober for many, many years, and it's like you can't let yourself go down that rabbit hole. You just can't.
We've seen Uncut Gems. We know what it's like.
I saw the movie. I refuse.
Oh, it's good.
You
It's
don't
very
know about
stressful.
that? Yeah, I was stressed.
No,
I'm stressed.
I couldn't make it all the way through. I'm like, oh, no, I don't need this level of anxiety in my life.
They came to me, and I was supposed to be the guy that sold that either Kevin Garnett, basketball player. The
Hmm.
funny thing is, I collect sports rings. Okay. I mean,
Nice.
the similarities are like crazy. And my friend Carl Cohen knew the producers,
Hmm.
and he was like, Buckley is the guy that's got to play that part, and this, and that, to be the dealer behind the thing. So they used Tuscany Rose. They used my company that had to sign off on a release and stuff like that. And my thing was, I didn't want to get paid. I want the sign, because the sign is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, I never got the damn sign, so I'm pissed. So I don't know. But I never saw the movie. It's not that I'm salty about it. It's just, they made the guy a loser, and he's not based on me. Trust me, I'm not a loser. I get out there and I win every minute of every day, But
Except the
you know,
5 to 10% that you don't.
Except that you win 95% of the day.
10%, let me tell you something. That 5 to 10%, when you're losing on a certain amount of your deals, okay, it shows that you're out there really being aggressive. So if you're being really aggressive, you're making it back tenfold. And
You're being
that's how it
realistic
works.
as well. You're not hanging on to, bad stuff or bad money. You're not chasing it.
I know guys that have had watches in their collection for 20 years, since 3 collapses ago, economic collapses. They've still got the same freaking watches. I'm like, bro, what are you going to do with that thing? Oh, I'm buried in it. I'm like, all right, so what? It's not that special. Oh,
Yeah.
no. It's like,
Let it
to
go.
each his own.
On
Yeah,
that, on the economic collapses, I mean, everyone's sort of feeling, inflation's going up all over the world. Things are getting a little bit tight. Obviously, the market for a lot of watches has softened big time over, I guess the course of 2022. And we talked about consignment, and a lot of dealers or brokers, as you call them, saying, "Oh, we only really consign," and it's really unusual for stuff that Steel Sports, Rolex, precious metal Rolex, Patek. They're just saying, "Oh, consign only." And I think a lot of it is also that risk. So, how do you deal with the risk of sort of the prices moving at the moment? Like, has your approach? I mean, you've been doing it for decades now, so I guess you've been through it before. But how do you deal with it?
This is my 3.5 economic collapses. First one was World Trade Center, 2001. Just gotten in the business. I was just starting out. 9/11 happens, market collapses. Then there was the Enron thing in 2006, 2007. That was a big one. That was right after there was a big auction, the Omega Revolution or some crap like that. And the auction.
Mania.
Yeah. One of those type deals. I hate Omega. But right after that was a really bad one. And I was blogging at the time. And it was interesting because I always posted prices and dealers hated me for it. Then there was 2011, which was like kind of mediocre, like collapse type thing. That wasn't really a collapse. It was kind of a downturn. And there's now. And I have to say, I love when the market shifts. I mean, yeah, I'll get beat up on certain things, but for the most part, I'm a parts dealer. Okay. That's what I do. I'm an expert when it comes to what goes with what vintage watch, and, where can I find it? How much can I pay for it? And who do I have that's been waiting for it to complete a project overseas for the last 20 years? And that's where I make my real money. I mean, buying and selling watches, it's like anybody could do that. Well, you know what I mean? It's like, it's really not, it's nothing. So you see anybody does it at this stage of the game. Everybody wants to do it. They get somebody to back them, and they, they do it. So, I mean, more power to them. I have no problem with that. But when you really get down to the real nitty gritty of this business, Okay, you've got to know what you're doing, because in these kind of times, people try to do weird stuff. They'll try to sell you fake stuff. I mean, the watch with what's his name, with French Montana. No, that's Alex, the fake case
Hmm.
that his cousin. It's like, I've seen those before. And the minute I saw it, the color of the gold was off. And I knew something wasn't right. And it was like, okay, and that only comes from handling the real thing every minute of every day. If you're
Mm.
looking at the internet, you're not going to notice something like that. You may know, it's a photo, I mean, I don't care how high res the
Mm.
pictures are. It's not going to be like holding it in your hand and comparing it to a real one, or just understanding, what the goal, what the weight is, how it feels in your hand. It's just a weird, it's a collector thing, and I'm not really I'm a professional collector. That's what I call myself. I do this for a living. The passion has kind of gone. It's like, okay, I don't even wear a watch anymore, and I've worn the craziest watches, like watches that, millions of dollars today, that I would wear on vacation. I have pictures of me, all over the planet, wearing these watches. Now you can't.
Mm.
The good watch that I wore on vacation, I was in Milan just before COVID. And I remember I was wearing a steel Daytona, a new one, ceramic white Daytona, my watch. And I had on a Yankees World Series ring. And I'm walking through like the streets of Milan by myself, going to my friend's store over on the other side of town. And I mean, I wasn't worried about it. I grew up in the city. So, I mean, it's not gonna, move my needle, so to
Yep.
speak. I'm not gonna, and, today I would never do that.
Yeah.
I would just do it, because all these guys are like getting robbed over there. And, the busboy in the restaurant who spots your watch, the waiter, I mean, everywhere you go, I mean, it's, people are watching, no pun. So we're kind of, we're just kind of, we're at this weird place in the watch market. Everybody, it's turning into like art, it's like an investor type thing, which,
Wow.
okay, I don't care how you want to pay for it, what you want to do with it. I mean, I'll sell it to you and I'll help you put together your collection, because that's what I do. But the fun, I don't have that. You can't wear your watches anymore. You just can't, and I'm not, I mean, I just, I don't know, just, it's a weird, like, transition. I have this thing with cars also. Like I'll have like, I always drive S classes. And then like, I'll drive something else for a couple of years and I'll be like, I don't even care, and then I'll go back. So sooner or later I'll be wearing a watch again, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
for the time, I don't know, kind of over it.
Yeah, I understand that. And I think that's something that if you're doing something every day, you go in and out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty
Yeah.
natural cycle. What I'd be really interested in your take on something. I always talk about this with Andy, basically anyone that I talk about watches, because you've been doing this a lot longer than us, obviously. But for me, when I first started getting into watches,
Mm-hmm.
a Rolex Submariner was always a $4,000 watch.
Mm.
Yeah.
4,000 or 5,000. And for me, I cannot get it out of my head that it's imprinted that the value of that watch is $4,000 or $5,000 watch. No matter where it is in the market, I
You're
can't
not wrong.
change that perspective. Do you have the same problem? Or
Oh yeah, absolutely. I look at stuff. I have that issue with a Hulk.
Yep.
Okay. It's like, whenever I see a Hulk, I remember them being $6,000, $7,000. And it's like, to see people spending 23, 24, 25,000, I won't even put my customers into it. I don't even want to handle them,
Mm.
and I, in years, Batman, the same thing, Batgirl, Batman. It's like, guys, it's a mass produced watch. Conversely, I had been, when I first got into watches in the mid 90s, I went into Tourneau. I put my name on the list for the Daytona, and it was $6,000 was
Mhm.
retail on the. I mean, you could buy one, gray market for 7. I still haven't gotten a call from the dealer. Okay, just, just aside, I have never gotten the call from the dealer. Okay, I've gotten
Any
calls
day.
on, yeah, on a Deep Sea or this, and it's like, all right, I could sell them to you for cheaper probably. But that's the thing. It's like, when you start in this business, I mean, I remember selling red subs for, $1,000, and double red sea dwellers. I think the cheapest one I ever sold was like $3,500.
Wow.
It was mint and it had papers and Daytonas. I mean, I sold to Paul Newman for 10 grand. That's
I want
how.
to ask you about this because it's an interesting thing. And vintage Rolex, it was really, really big before the pandemic. It was just sort of everyone's eyes was on it, and then it sort of shifted to the new hypey stuff. But what was that like being in the market at a time where people really didn't differentiate, the Mayer dial or the Buckley dial? Like it wasn't as big a selling feature as it became, 2 decades later or whatever, where the smallest detail would, allegedly, triple the value of the watch. When it was just a sub was a sub, a GMT was a GMT.
Oh, it never was though. Never
It wasn't.
was. No.
What?
We Vintage Rolex Forum, when we first started, okay, there were there were 4 forums. There was Time Zone and Watch, who were the same company. There was BJ's Online, which was owned by Kamal, who owns Pro Hunter watches. And he's a good guy. I mean, he'll drive you nuts. But I mean, one of the biggest players in the auction world. I mean, just, super eye for, collecting, and Vintage Rolex Forum. And Vintage Rolex Forum was owned by a guy named Richard Carver. And it was me, Eric Koo, a bunch of the guys that came up after the first like real bunch of watch dealers, which were Joe DeMacy, Bob Marin, I'm drawing a blank, but I mean, Bob Wingate, I mean, the real, Patrizzi, Guido Mondani, these guys who, really started it. Patrizzi started all of this, and the Italians with the Paul Newmans, nobody wanted manual wind Daytonas. Okay. If you look in the old books, they'll say, Rolex President, $4,000, Rolex Datejust, $7,000. We do not accept Rolex Cosmographs. Okay. They used to trade them for 200 and change. And, I was on 47th Street. I mean, I used to buy my dials from these guys when I knew, what some of these dials were worth, and they didn't. I would go through boxes of dials and pick out red sub dials and 6538 dials and 6542 dials. And I'd buy them for $100, $200 each. And, back then, maybe you would double or triple your money. Okay. Today, I mean, if I look through some of my old hard drives, it's like, oh my God, this stuff that I bought and sold. Oh my God. But we always knew the difference of stuff. We were the guys who set, Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3 inserts. I mean, inserts came later, but the dials were always, always paramount in our world. And if my old website, which I haven't changed since 2007, 2008, because my who had since died created for me, it's like Johnny Dials. That's what some of my guys used to say, because I would always sell dials. I would rather sell parts. That's so much easier. Selling watches is a pain in the ass. Trust me.
That's really interesting, and I guess what I want to dig further is the price. So you talk about a double red being a $3,500 watch. What would a service style seed dweller have been of the same era? Like it was still
$1,000.
Yeah, so there was still the value difference, it's just grown exponentially.
Yeah. I mean, I look at some of the watches that I bought and sold over the years. Okay, Newman's, big crowns, military subs, 6538s. I have a friend, Arthur, who is, a legendary, he manages something called Watch Talk Forums on Facebook, and his name is Arthur Bond. That's not his real name, but he's AAK Viper. And Arthur and I were the guys who, I was the guy who bought the original Blueberry bezels from this dealer in Florida. He used to send me bezels. I would buy them for $15, $10 each. And Arthur and I pulled these blue bezels out and we're looking at them and like, wow, what is this? Arthur's got probably 5 of the original lot that we bought. Eric, who bought the last 4 that I had at a IWJG show in 2008 in Orlando. I remember because I sold them to him for $750 each. And Eric is a very dear friend of mine. Eric and I go way back. And we always goof about that. It's like, oh my God. And he had since sold them, I'm sure. But Arthur has the original lot that was that same lot. And they're different from the ones that you'll see. that were being sold that I was selling them. I mean, we got them when in 2013, a whole new batch was found.
Yeah. Found.
I don't know. I don't know, but they had all the characteristics. The only difference was the coloring was a little different.
Mm.
Okay. The first generation ones are a little less blue. These were like, brand new. And they had all the characteristics. We sold them out like within a year or so. I remember, I think Philip Stahl I think he bought 50 of them. Philip is Rolex Passion Report and mine. And, other guys, they were right. They were real. They were just a different batch. And Rolex is known for that. Rolex always issues. That's what, like the Patrizzi dial, the cream dial, tropical, color like change and all this other crap. It's like Rolex is notorious for that. So, I mean, to have a different, a different lot, a different color lot or a die lot is common for them. But I mean, we went through wars with those things with this guy over in Malaysia. I'm not even going to give him credit. But I mean, the funny story is with this guy, I mean, this guy asked me, remember when the Gandhi auction, this was in 2008 or 9, Gandhi's watch and glass were being off. Yeah, and Bob Marin was in charge of Antiquorum at the time. And this guy calls me up. He's like, John, I want to bid on this thing. I was like, okay, what do you want to bid? He's like, okay, you can go up to 100,000. I'm like, really? I was like, I don't think it's going to work, but who knows with an auction? So I bid money for this guy. And if he would have won, I would have had to lay it out and he would have had to pay me back. And then this guy goes on a rampage, like mocking, like, knocking me online. It's like, dude, I'll pay for you to come over here and we could sit down and I will show you the characteristics of the original stuff, because Arthur and I, we've got all this stuff so that we can compare everything to. That's the difference between us and a lot of these other guys. It's like, if you show up with a Bakelite bezel and I think it's questionable and you don't, it's like, okay, I'll show you why it's questionable, because I'll pull a real one out that is absolutely documented and here it is, and you'll see the difference. Like a Paul Newman. It's like, there's a lot of funny Paul Newman dials floating around all of a sudden with all the characteristics. You can still spot them, but people that don't handle them or haven't handled them for years and years, years like we have, they're not going to catch it, and then you get caught out there for 200 grand, and what happens with brokers, all of these people who are, consigning watches for their, rich benefactors. It's like, they'll sell the watch. The watch will change hands maybe 2 or 3 times in a couple of months, and then it'll always come back to you. That's the problem with these things. There's a paper trail, and then
it's really interesting because it's as you sort of point out, you do have that edge on newer dealers of being out buying and selling Paul Newman dials, when they were, or watches when they were $4,000 watches, $5,000 watches, and doing it on volume. And now most, dealers from the last 10 years, they wouldn't know what to do. They wouldn't know how to price it, but they wouldn't know what to do when one came in front of them.
Know how to spot it. First of all, we'll get a call. One of us will get a call on anything that shows up in New York. I'm usually third on the list because they all know me that I'm a little salty. Yeah. Like, it'll be Andrew Shear, who's a top expert and a big time collector and a good friend of mine. I mean, Eric, he'll get a call. That's Eric. That's my boy. He'll get a call maybe, if somebody wants to go to the West Coast, but there's really nobody else in New York. And Jeff Sharp. I mean, Jeff Sharp is low key. He's the guy, the bald guy that he was wearing the Tiffany Datejust, the white gold one in the video.
Oh, yeah.
He is a top collector. Wow. And he doesn't deal with everybody. He'll only deal with me. And maybe a few other people. He'll deal with Bobby. He'll deal with me, maybe a couple of other guys. But he's very, very selective on who he deals with. And Jeff and I know each other for the longest time. And, Jeff has a collection that will rival any collection on the planet. And nobody knows about it. Took me down, to show me one day. I was blown away with the stuff that he's got. I mean, just museum piece, one after another. He's just low-key guy, and that's how it is in our world. It's an old boys club, and like, we're the second generation of that club. Me, Jeff, Eric. I mean, Andrew's a little later, but Andrew fits into that mold because Andrew's a top guy, But the rest of these guys, I mean, they came in, in the last 10 years for the most part. And they're all, they come in from other and, you know, whether they're financed or whatever, or they're just doing corporate stuff. And, you know, God bless them. I don't care. It's no hate, but, you know, stay in your lane, man. Just stay in your lane and all will be okay. Because
So,
Buckley can get salty.
so you were, so you're one of that generation of people that, in a way, wrote the book, like defined the
We did.
characteristics of the vintage watch market. You set
Yeah.
all this stuff down, like you said, these are the differences, and everyone, no matter their expertise, they're all like going back to VRF and saying this is the gospel, I guess. Do you regret that?
No.
Like,
You know what?
do you kind of go, I should have just kept it simpler?
You know what? It's like saying that, you know, I should have never sold that watch in 2005 because now it's worth $10 million. It's like, you know what? We wrote the book on it because we were studying it ourselves. You know, we did the research. You know, it was like the internet wasn't what it is today back then. And like when you look at excuse me, when you look at some of the stuff that we came up with, I mean, you know, just noticing little tiny differences like case wise and serial numbers and excuse me, it's like it's mind blowing that we did that in an age where, you know, Google was not your friend. You know, we had to do that from owning stuff and buying it and making mistakes,
paying for the lesson yourself. Yeah,
people don't understand how much money you lose, okay, when you make a mistake in this game. This is a big boy game. I mean, I took a $75,000 hit one time. I've taken $30,000 hits. I mean, I've lost all kinds of money in other businesses, but in the watch game, that's how it works. If you make one mistake, you know, you're hurt. You know, it hurts and it sucks. You know, it doesn't matter if you can come back from it or not. It's just you always think about it and you learn from it. It's part of the education. And that's what a lot of these guys, they're not able to make those kind of mistakes because they're not writing their own checks. You know, it's like, you know, they're playing with house money and you can't play money and really do this. You know, you can't be a broker in this game. You know, these aren't stocks. This isn't Apple. You know, these are tangible goods. This is like the art market or the wine market or any of the, or the car market. Oh my God. It's more akin to the car market, you know, because the car market, if you're going to buy a 64 and a half Mustang and all the numbers have to match, all the paint has to match, the chrome has to be a certain way, the tires have to, it's like it's got all of those little details that you really have to get in there and you've got to know it because the guy who's selling it to you, I mean, for the most part, people are honest in this business. The problem is half of them don't know what they're selling.
Yeah.
You know, they'll go on, you know, on an old VRF site and say, hey, okay, that's a Paul Newman dial. It's like, okay, well, which Paul Newman dial is it? And does it go with that insert that's on, you know, that bezel that's on there? And does that bezel and dial go with the serial number? And do both of those go with the right bracelet? And you have to know all of these things. And that's one of the things that I pride myself on. It's like, I know what bracelet codes, I know what, you know, what inserts go where, I know what dials go in what, I know the serial numbers that, you know, you have to, I mean, I've bought watches, you know, that I need for people. Like if somebody needs, you know, a 2 million serial 6263, you know, and it's got a crappy dial and the guy wants too much for it, I'll pay for it. I don't care because I know the person that I have on the other end needs that case. He doesn't care what dial is in it because he's got the watch with the wrong serial number and the right dial. So off to Singapore or Hong Kong or China, somewhere, wherever it's going to go. And that's how the business works, you know? And it's like, these guys fancy themselves, you know, watch specialists, watch experts, and this and that. It's like, dude, you have no idea what this takes to really call yourself that. Okay. And, you know, I may sound like an egomaniac, but I'm a fucking expert. Okay. I know what I'm talking about, you know, and most of the other people who are around know it too. You know, there aren't many of us. Everyone claims it, but when push comes to shove, that's what we do. You know, we've been doing it for, you know, 25 years now. I've been doing it. So I paid my dues, you know, and it's a living. It's a living.
So back to the social media. Clearly you're not just doing it, maybe you are doing it for fun. I don't know. Is there also a benefit to it? Like, is it good marketing? Are you finding a new generation of, you know, Generation Z TikTokers are now buying Daytonas, or is there something else at play?
I'm selling a lot of stuff, but I can't handle the volume. I'm a one-man army. Okay. My son is not going to do the mechanics. He's not going to do the pick and shovel stuff. That's not his. Tyler is more into, he understands the modern stuff. If I give him something, I don't want to put him out there with that kind of stuff because that's not his area. The thing with social media and TikTok, I had no problem dealing on Instagram for the last 10 years, 9 years, 13, I think I got on. And I had a very, very small following. I had maybe 6,000 followers before this TikTok thing took off. And I always said my TikTok page, my Instagram page, I could probably sell it because it's got 5,000 or 6,000 of the biggest players in the world are on there watching me. So I would post something, it'll either sell in 5 minutes or I'll just put it back in the box and I'll sell it another time, but that's how my Instagram was. Now it's a different dynamic. It's more like people are calling me up. Oh, I need a Paddock 5711, or, oh, I need a Rolex Daytona, and, oh, I need this. And my phone just doesn't stop. And I'm not set up for that. So what we did, we set up the Telegram group. And I mean, okay, brief commercial announcement, it's like, it was more so for survival, for me, because what happens, especially on TikTok, when you're dealing with, 50,000, 75,000, 200,000, 300,000 people that are that if 1% of them are contacting you a week, that's a lot. Okay. In addition to my regulars that are on Instagram, just watching reels that I'm just throwing up because I don't have time to really make content there. So what winds up happening is you don't answer everybody, and then people get salty, and rightfully so, because they think people want to talk to me. And that's the problem. It's like, okay, Buck, you're too big to sell me a watch. It's like, dude, you want a watch. It's like, what do you expect me to do? Oh, I want a two-tone date just. Okay, so I'm supposed to go out there and, find tone date just and send you pictures. Well, I want this dial. Oh, I want this. It's like, guys, here's what we're going to do. Put you in a Telegram group with all of my other dealer friends who are in there, and we're going to charge you $20 a month. Okay, which I think is really fair because I charge a lot more for my dealer only groups. And for $20 a month, you get to hang out with other dealers, learn how the business works. You get to, do an authenticity check. Like if somebody, puts this watch up there and, oh, is this real? Somebody will jump on and say, no, don't buy it. Something's wrong. I mean, if that's not worth $20 a month to you, okay, you get in there for a week or so, you don't like it, I'll give you your money back. No problem. It's not about the money right now. So what happened, we started it like a little less than a month ago. We've got about 700 people probably, that are paying now, which, it's just amazing, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of management. And it's all a lot of, you've got to have people that understand, that when somebody contacts you, you've got to answer. So I'm still getting emails and phone calls, but we're just stockpiling money from this group, which I don't know what we're going to do with it, but we're going to do something with it. We're going to probably have a big party.
Big house.
Yeah, we're going to have a, what do you call it? We're going to have a get together for the anniversary of VUCAM in April, which is going to be fun. And, it kind of takes a lot of the pressure off me as being the guy that has to supply the watches. I say to people, look, put your $20 in, go in the group, ask for a watch. One of my guys is going to sell it to you. You don't have to pay my commission. I don't have to spend the time, which is more important to me. You don't like it, then you don't have to pay the next month. You just leave. It's fine. And people get it. It's cost effective. Other groups are thousands of dollars a year. I personally pay thousands of dollars to be in very specific chat groups. Okay. And I've been doing this for years. I'm in a vintage chat group. I'm in my regular chat groups, that I pay for, and people pay to be in my groups. And it's, it is what it is at this point. It's everybody wants free information, and I don't have a problem. I'm usually very giving of information, but when I'm inundated and people just want to, take advantage of it, not so much take advantage. They don't think they're taking advantage. They're asking me, and I should be willing and
accessible.
Jump down, sell them a date just, which I am, believe it or not. But if I can't service you properly, I'd rather you go somewhere where you're going to be serviced properly. I stand behind everybody, and these are guys that have been in the business 20 years like me that are having a wonderful time in there. And the newcomers are going to be people that we're going to be doing business with for years on end. So it's a win-win for everybody. So that's my sales pitch.
And that's info on VUCAM, right? VUCAM.com.
It's you can go on VUCAM.com. I have a link tree in my bio, which you'll see. It'll say link tree, and then you click on it. It'll say Telegram group. If you know, you know. You put your credit card information in. Tyler gets up every morning and adds people in. And I go on TikTok every day, sometimes twice a day. And the first thing I do is I say, listen, there are people here watching. Does anyone have an issue in that Telegram group that I need to address? Does anybody having a problem with somebody? And it's transparent. You know, we show everybody that, you know what, we're doing it so that other people can get involved because everyone wants to do it. It's a great side hustle if you're going to do it as a side hustle. To do it for a living, you got to practice. And this is how you practice. Learning with other guys who started out. You know how I started out. I started out selling catalogs on the internet. You know, watch catalogs. I walked out of my house in Brooklyn. I looked down in the garbage. There was an Antiquarium catalog there. I picked it up. I had just gotten on eBay. I put it on eBay. I sold it for $40 and a light bulb went off in my head. You know, and
Felix, get yours out. You can sell yours, mate.
Nah,
you got some early 2000s.
Never sell them. Never sell them.
I have boxes of them upstairs. I put the down payment on my first house from doing that.
Wow. That's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
A house that Antiquarium built.
How that catalog's built, I'll tell you that.
I love it. Hey, you unlocked a new character recently. Maybe a couple of days ago. Bryn from Dime Piece came through. Sold you a watch. Oh, did you overpay on that deal? I feel like you did.
Did I overpay on that deal? Yeah.
She got
why
you.
did I overpay? Look, you know what? Bryn is a writer, and God love her. She's another one of these folks that's new to this, and it's all, you know, rainbows and unicorns, and oh, I want to wear this watch and all. And you know what? She's a very sweet young lady. She really is. She's very, very nice, and she's a very talented writer. And she has this voice in the industry that, I mean, and honesty, I mean, she's selling herself short by going on and reporting for all of these different companies. I mean, they're getting tremendous social media play from her. And, you know, they're paying for a first class ticket and a hotel room and stuff like that. It's like, you know what? She needs to be on payroll. That girl, you know, she's got an audience. And I think she's really good at what she does, you know, and I think she's a very, very nice young lady, really nice. And I appreciate what she does. You know, I do. I mean, as long as I don't have to overpay for watches from her again.
Have you sold that watch yet? Found a buyer for it?
Tony wound up taking it because he had a customer. Tranquilo Tony. Yeah. Well, listen, we
go.
sell. It's never a problem for us to sell. You know, the problem is buying. That's our problem. We can't buy enough. You know, we can't buy enough of the stuff. I mean, two-tone date just, I mean, geez, I could sell them all day long. Now they're a little less, but you know what? So what? You know, I mean, you make a little less money, you move it on, you know, and goodbye and good luck. You know, that's how we roll. You know, we're not, yeah, you know, we try to do our best for everybody, you know, and for the most part, we try to do our best for ourselves and our business. You know, we're not, you know, this isn't a charity. You know, it's not a 501c3. We're out there, you know, for profit. You know, and that's, you know, that's important to us, you know, but it's also important to do the right thing, you know, and great with people. And that's how you stay in business 25 years. You know, the key to staying in business as long as I have, and the key to having a reputation that I have, is to give a fast refund if something is wrong. If a customer is not happy, okay, for whatever reason, you know, I get my wife said I can't have it. Here, send it back. I'll give you your money back. You know what? Because I'm not beating you up so badly that the profit is so great that it's going to hurt me to buy my own stuff back. Yeah. It's not a problem. I'll money back. I'll pay for the shipping back. No problem. But I'll always remember in my head that this customer, for some reason, you know, flaked on a deal.
Yeah.
Okay. And we all have a real good memory for that kind of stuff. Guys like to return stuff for, you know, whatever reason. We've got these chat groups that we're in together. And it's like, okay, you dealt with this guy. Yeah, he returned this over. Okay. You know, next time, watch out, you know, send him a few more pictures, let him know what it is that he's buying. And it's not like we're going to blacklist anybody. It's just that we like to make sure, because when you're sending, you know, a lapis dial across the country, okay, and the customer gets it, and then the person's like, oh, well, you know, something came up, you know, my kid's tuition was due. My wife got really upset. And then they got to ship it back to you. If there's a crack in that dial, I'm the one that's, you know, I'm the one that's going to lose 50 grand or 40 grand or whatever it is, you know, and that happens when you're doing service on watches too. I mean, guys are like, you know, what watchmaker do you use? It's like every watchmaker can screw up. I've had watchmakers make terrible mistakes, you know, cracked a coral dial on me. When was it? 2 months ago, a lapis, lady's lapis dial got cracked. my watchmaker is really good. I spend a lot of money with him, but sometimes, they're not going to make good 100% on it, and you can't expect them to. It's at your own risk. That's why I do it myself sometimes with those kind of dials. If I'm going to screw it up, let me screw it up, and that's it. That's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Fast refund. That's a really,
it's good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you mentioned it. You mentioned it at the start. I want to find out more about it. Some sort of reality show?
Oh God. Since we started with the kids from LA, who are really nice guys, really nice people, Ari Kagan and Adam Faze, Mad Realities, really nice guys. And they approached us when I had no TikTok following, zero. I think I had 20 followers when I first started. Tyler had maybe 25,000 followers. And they wanted to do the show with Tyler and with us as backup in the show. Since then, we've got over 500,000 followers between us now. And they're doing the TikTok, YouTube type deal, YouTube short, TikTok, and things like that. I was approached about a month ago by a good company that they deal with a lot of reality shows and stuff like that. They're basically brokers. So I've been kind of like putting it off. And oddly enough, I finally agreed. I was like, listen, just send the contracts. I'll have it. He's like, oh, do you need an entertainment lawyer? I was like, no, I have my own. Thank you. Don't worry. We're pretty set in the attorney department here. We've been around the block. We have every avenue covered. Let's put it that way.
You sold them Daytonas 20 years ago.
Hello. Goodwill I have banked when it comes to doctors and lawyers.
Yeah.
People don't get it. Like,
I get it.
My guys that, if I need, or police chiefs or, and stuff like that, if I need a favor, and I never call in favors, I'm always one to always want to be the guy who's giving to another. But if you ever need to call in a favor, the best guys to have are doctors and lawyers, And oddly enough, I got a call from out of the blue from a person from TikTok who calls me up, and we're talking, and he wanted to buy a watch, and he was in a country that was a little, difficult to ship to, customs wise. So I'm like, oh, all right. I was like, listen, just fly in. We'll work it out together. Whatever it is, I'll take you to dinner. You buy the watch, you write, send me a wire, whatever. He's like, no, I'm going to fly my plane in. I'm like, oh, what do you have? It's what is it? He's like, oh, I have a this and that. I was like, oh, is that a single or twin engine? He's like, no, it's a jet. I'm like, okay. All right, this sounds good. Okay, this is the airport you got to fly into. And oddly enough, he's very, very well connected in that space. And, we're supposed to be having a call. I'm doing this now. He wanted to do it, during this. I was like, no, I already have a commitment. And we're going to have this phone call, I think Monday. He's flying in. And we're going to sit down together, and we're going to put together the contract that we're going to be working with, and they're going to produce it, and it's going to probably be on one of the US networks. I don't know which one it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to be based on. It's just going to be us being idiots like we always are, and people love to watch us do our crazy shtick. And it'll be me, the boys. There'll be my wife in there, who's really not crazy about it, but it's not that she's not crazy about it. She and my son are very similar in a lot of ways. My son and I are extremely similar in different ways, but she and my son are extremely cautious. I'm the guy that's like fast and loose. They're really cautious. My wife is the bookkeeper in the family. She takes care of all of that stuff, and it's like, I'm always, let's go, gung ho, and I said to her, I was like, look, she's 62, I'm 58. I said, listen, we're okay right now. Everything is fine. We've been, we have real estate holdings and stuff like that. We're good, but this is the type of thing right now where we could set up our son for, and our grandchildren and our great grandchildren if we play this card right. He's set. Okay. But I'd like to, whenever you have money, you always want more. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Especially real estate and with tenants and I have a medical facility that's, oh my God, my regular tenants are the nicest people. The doctors are really hard to deal with. Don't tell them I said that, but they don't buy watches. why.
Okay.
But it's just that's what we're working on. I mean, this just came out of the blue today, and my son's actually. It's my wife's got. Uh, we've got this crazy thing at Barstool tomorrow night.
Yep.
Friday, my wife has an infection in a tooth in the back. She's got to go and get either an Apico or something over there. Saturday, my son's going to the fights in the garden. His buddy's dad had a favor called in, and they've got a big space over there. So it's just there. The four of them are going with the three of them. The two of them are going with the girlfriends. And, we're going to be doing this, either Sunday or Monday. And hopefully we can fast track it where we're going to be shooting as soon as possible, because we're already shooting. That's the thing. And, we'll see what happens, see what comes of it. If something good comes of it, fantastic. If nothing comes of it, hey, you spitball it these days. You take a shot. I'm always good like that. But yeah, so it's interesting. It's just interesting.
I love it. Well, the last question we ask all our guests is for a recommendation from you. Something you've been enjoying, not watch related, could be a book, podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't like music, so we'll rule that out.
TikTok channel.
TikTok account. What have you been enjoying that you think that people listening and watching would also enjoy, John?
I mean, everybody knows there are 2 or 3 things that I deal with in life. I don't have time for a lot. Not that I don't have time. It's that my energy has to be extremely well spent at my, and I've always been the same thing, but I deal with my family, number 1, my business, number 2. I deal with, I go to the gym and I have my gym time, and I play softball, and softball, it's my thing, it's the only time out of my day. Okay. Now the season's over. So the gym is that 1 hour or so out of the day where I don't have my phone with me. My phone stays in the car. I completely detach for that time. And softball is the same thing. It's like 2.5 hours. I am playing. I don't want to hear anything. Sometimes if I know that stuff is going on, my son will be there. He's usually hanging out. Tyler will be there. If you look on Tyler's page, some of the early stuff is me wearing watches, playing softball. And you haven't seen that stuff?
I don't think I have. We'll have to find it.
God, go look on Vucom page, like some of the ones from like about 2 or 3 months ago. It was, how can we fuck up a watch? Let's see what we can do. Playing softball, fast pitch softball, and it's kind of funny. I mean, we screwed up maybe 1 or 2, but it's funny. I won Daytona, I wore an Orange Hand Explorer, I won Panerai, I won all kinds of watches. So it says watch durability test on the top intake.
Nice.
I'm sure that's fine.
That's what we do for fun. We just try to mess up. And I use my terrible watchmaking skills to put them back together again.
Hey, I love it. Well, I think we have to have you back for a round 2 at some point, because I think there's
premiere of the show.
Yeah, premiere of the show.
But if we can come back with the boys, I mean,
yes.
Oh my God, dynamic with those boys. Oh my God.
I think people will ask us after seeing you've been on, John. I think they're going to say, get the lads on as well, because
get them to tell the real story.
A lot of personality.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, their story. If you want to tell the real story, go back to the 70s, and then you'll find stories. But hopefully, I don't know how many of those people are still alive or not in jail or anything. I don't know. We lived in the 70s, man. I don't know how you guys do it with all these cameras, bro. I don't.
You just don't go out.
Fun stuff. We'll talk about the 70s, man. Oh, what a trip! But it was such a pleasure speaking with you guys. You guys are great, and I'm so happy that I did this. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Andy and Felix, thank you.
Thank you.
Of course, we'll link everything up. John, it's been a pleasure. And you better get on with your evening there. What a chat, Andy Green.
What a chat indeed. I know where I'm going to probably lose out on a watch sale.
Yeah, I mean, we'll link everything up in the bio. Thanks very much, John. That was a really great chat. I think we were talking about putting this on YouTube as well. So if you want to enjoy your podcast in a different format, you can do it there, maybe. Thank you so much, G-Shock Australia. Really great to have your support as always, as well as that Artem straps. We would be a much less of a podcast without you. How can people review this 5-star podcast?
You can leave your 5-star review for this 5-star podcast on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. We'd love to see them there.
Even Google Podcasts.
Yeah. Every time you're negotiating with someone, make sure you mention it to the podcast. Use this as a bit of background research or something, and share the word. And look, folks, I'll see you next week.
Let's get on it.